Welcome to the Invisible Illness Club podcast. I'm April Aramanda. We talk honestly about life with chronic illness, the parts you see and the parts you don't. So wherever you are on your journey, you're not the only one. What does it actually look like to build a creative life when your body doesn't give you consistent capacity? Today's guest is Wendy Gingell, a fantasy author who writes stories that don't play it safe while living with chronic illness. Wendy, I'm really glad you're here. Wendy goes by W.R. Gingell as her pen name for her books. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a bit now, especially hearing more about your work and getting to read some of it on your website and what life actually looks like behind the scenes for you. So I think a lot of people are going to feel seen in this one. And thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today.
I'm really glad to be here. We've been trying to make this happen for a little while now, and our schedules lined up for a bit, and then our illnesses did not line up for a bit. So it's really nice to make it here and to, just to be here to talk about. And if we can make people feel a bit seen too, that's really nice as well.
Awesome.
So
Love it.
thank you for having me. Sorry, I forget to thanks sometimes.
That's okay. That's okay. We're simple and easy here. So, I mean, as you can tell, I'm sitting in bed today. So,
I love your curtains though. I've been admiring them.
This is actually my mother's house, and these, because we're getting ready to buy a house. And so these are her curtains, and they're actually absolutely beautiful. So
mothers have the coolest stuff.
Don't they? I'm like, want to steal half her house. Okay.
Yes.
Well, tell us what chronic illnesses that you live with and how long you've been dealing with those.
So I've got a couple. I've got endometriosis, which technically I've been suffering with since slightly before I had a period. I was already getting really bad pains when I was quite young. So I always thought it was just normal. So I think maybe 9 or 10 years old, I guess.
Wow.
When I got my period, which was a few years after that, I wasn't early or anything. It was painful from day one. And then it just got exponentially worse as it went on. I've had 2 surgeries so far for it. I'll probably have to have another surgery in the next year or 2. And it's likely that by another few years, I might have to have a complete hysterectomy. So the pain with that has been severe. Especially during my period, which has meant that with all the things that come with it, with the extreme tiredness, the pain, the dizziness, the nausea, that quite often I would be in bed for 3 days while that was going on, and then things would ease off. And the surgeries have helped a lot. But as a lot of the women out there will know, it is not easy to get endometriosis diagnosed. Everything will be suspected before that. And if you're someone like me, who is stage 4 and 5, which is 5 is the highest you can get. That's the worst you can go. Even with that, sometimes you don't present typically, or you don't know that what your experience is abnormal, or like me, you're neurodiverse, and the way you explain things doesn't match with the way they receive information, and you need help to explain things in the right way. So it took about 7 to 8 years, which is, compared with other ladies, it's not that bad, but it was bad enough for me. By the time I got my first surgery, I was on the pill constantly. And unfortunately, the pill makes me have suicidal thoughts. So that was really hard. And at that point, I was bad enough that I was just crying on the bathroom floor through most of my period, and the pill did not stop my period. So you're meant to take it the whole time to stop it, and I started bleeding through, and then I was getting like 10-day periods, and then a week off, and then a new one would come. So by the time I was having the surgery, I was really grateful to have it, and it did help a lot. It of course, endometriosis grows back, so it doesn't actually stop. So there's surgeries in the future, but for now, pain meds don't really work for me, and the ones that slightly work also eat my stomach out, so that I end up in insane stomach pain as well. So I did myself an injury with the NSAIDs usage, because it was the only time I would use it during my period, but that was enough with the amounts I was having to take even a little bit of pain away.
Yeah.
that, yeah, it did some damage. I've got some ulceration in my stomach and probably more happening as we speak. So that's
Wow.
been a long thing, and it obviously it's chronic. It doesn't end. It just
Right.
changes shape a little and keeps going. I've also these days, since 4 years ago, I've got long COVID and POTS.
Mm.
Uh, the long COVID hit me hard. I was
Mm-hmm.
the only one in our family that got really sick with it, thankfully. We were really worried about my mother because she is inclined to get very sick
Mm-hmm.
and to have things that carry on. She's got chronic illnesses herself. And yeah, we were worried about her, but she and dad came through all right. My sister came through all right. And I was the only one. Yeah, I ended up, yeah, I was in bed for, not in bed all the time, but I was pretty reliably in bed for about 2 years.
Wow.
And I could get out and do a little bit, but not very much. And then I just got like a tiny bit better. And then the POTS got diagnosed because I was still struggling
Mm-hmm.
so hard, and couldn't find out why I was struggling so hard. And that
Yeah.
just sort of, yeah, just, it was helpful, but the range of things that come with POTS are
Mm-hmm.
so many that sometimes it's hard to pin it down to this is POTS or this is another, or like this is an
Right.
autoimmune disease. I've been, yeah, I've been having consistent stomach pains, and trying to get help for those as well has been hard because the male
Mm-hmm.
doctors, a lot of the time, if you've got a history like I have of an abusive marriage
Mm.
and other stuff like that, straight away they start telling you it is because of your trauma and that you need to
Right.
go to see a hypnotist, as I was
Depression,
told.
anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so angry at that time too,
Mm-hmm.
because I had, at that time, after I had escaped my marriage, I had taken, it took me 2 full years to heal bodily symptoms of
Right.
anxiety and trauma. And I still have some of those,
Yeah.
but the specific things, I had worked so hard just to rejig my system so that I wouldn't react to certain things, and so that I
Mm-hmm.
could go out to restaurants again without
Right.
being terrified all the time, without having to run scripts through my head 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And so they use all that stuff to, I guess, deny you any kind of actual real
Mm-hmm.
care.
Yeah.
And so I'm still in search of diagnoses for, yeah, a lot of stomach related issues. But as it turns out, POTS has answered the question of a lot of things I used to have as a kid as well.
It's
And it
good.
just turns out that I must already have had it, just nothing like the level it is now after COVID. So at the moment, those two things are the main ones that I that
Mm-hmm.
I have in terms of chronic illness. There are other things that are suspected, but diagnosis again is
It's
a
hard.
long-winded thing, and it's very hard, especially as a woman. Um,
Yes.
and I know that's not just as a woman. I know that Black women have it harder. I know that Aboriginal women in Australia have it much harder, but also it's hard. Just as a woman,
Well,
it's
I
hard.
think that because the medical field is still heavily dominated by men, and there's nothing
And
wrong with that. There are a lot of fantastic male
yes,
doctors.
yep,
Um, and I know quite a few. I also know some that aren't. I think that medicine, because of the years of hysteria, the years of all the different
yeah,
things, that they said were wrong with women, back in the day,
yeah,
I think that it's still very skewed where women are
yes.
concerned.
I
Um,
also think that a lot of the issues, along with what you're saying, I think a lot of the issues come from most of science, and most of bodily
mhm.
information is based on what happens to men and men's
Right.
bodies. And
Right.
you can't really run science like that with only half your
No.
information set, but that's what's been done. And
Not a
yeah,
lot of
it turns out
research
not
was
great.
done initially on women. It was done on men. And so what you're saying is actually very, very accurate. And so that skews things on
And
women
it's
as
called
well.
atypical presentation, but really a lot of
Yes.
the time all women, or not all women, but a lot of women will present like this, but it's called atypical because it's not the male experience.
Right. It's not what they're used to seeing.
Yes.
Especially, and the other thing with chronic illness is that a lot of doctors, and this is something I want to make sure people understand before we move on to other questions.
Mm.
A lot of physicians are trained in what's called acute care, meaning immediate need, meaning there's something that they can fix that's physically wrong with you. You broke a toe,
Mm.
you have an ulcer, you know, or a heart attack or things like that. These are acute things, immediate care things that they can look at and go, this is what's wrong and I can fix it. A lot of physicians are not trained in chronic illness. That's something that's
Right.
coming up now, but it's not something that was done for years and years and years and years and years.
Mm.
And so it's harder for physicians when it comes to chronic illness because they don't understand the difference
Yes.
between what they can fix and what's been happening for so many years that necessarily is never going to go away. So
Yes. And I think it's
it's,
probably disheartening for them as well.
yes,
Like it's something
I
I
think
can't
it
fix.
is. Yeah, I think it's hard. And some of them will play to their ego and not say that they don't know what's wrong. And others will
Yes.
actually say, I don't understand how to deal with this. I think you need a
Mm.
different physician. So
That's
there's
when you know
my
you've got a good doctor.
spiel. Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. And there's my spiel on the medical practice because, you know, I come from a medical family. And so I want to make sure I
Mhm.
always hit both sides of it.
Yeah.
I think
Both
it's
sides is
important.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when there's so much frustration and so much
Yes.
pain wrapped up in all of this. Because, I mean, if you've
Yes.
got a chronic illness, you're living with all of that, but you don't necessarily see or appreciate the other side. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is important to know the other side, not just to be a good human being, but to get effective care
Yes.
and to effectively advocate for yourself, I think, as well.
Well, and to know that there are good doctors out there. There are
Yes.
people that will listen to
Yeah.
you. You just have to take the time to find them. And that's the hard part. That's the
Yes.
exhausting part. So,
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
well, back to you, Wendy.
Yeah.
When did you first realize that your life wasn't going to go back to what you expected? I know you were diagnosed at a
Mhm.
very young age, but sometimes as kids and teenagers, we think, you know, it'll get better and we won't have to deal with this forever. So when did you realize that this was going to be a long-term problem and your life was going to be a little different?
So it's kind of hard to say when exactly that happened because
Hmm.
I'm guessing a lot of the things that happen with my body are complicated by my ADHD,
Hmm.
which um it, the way that comes out, the way it interacts with that is I have a hard time uh not understanding what's going on with my body, but cataloging and collecting things and understanding what I'm feeling. So
Right.
it so I said I started with pain about when I was 9 or 10, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't until I was 20, I think, that and the pain was quite debilitating by then. I was working
Right.
checkouts and it was hard to physically stand at that point even. But still, my instinct was to just keep pushing through. It For some reason it didn't occur to my brain we can take pain medication
Hmm.
because it was just so normal. It was
Right.
so normal to be in this kind of pain that it just did not occur to me take pain medication. And at that point the pain meds did work for the first
Hmm.
5 years.
Hmm.
I'd have to take a lot of them, but they would work. Um, so I feel like when it comes to things like noticing that I'm a really slow study and I have trouble stopping eating until I am physically unwell sometimes because I'm enjoying the
Right.
textures of things and I'm just
Me
not paying
too.
attention to signals. And I will work for hours forgetting to eat or drink or go to the toilet because
Hmm.
I'm locked in. So I feel like I was really, really slow and I've had
Hmm.
to consciously, and I think all ADHD people really need to try and do this if they can. I had to learn to start consciously paying attention to what was
Hmm.
happening with my body, to log things, to write things down, even if those things go missing,
Hmm.
which they do if you put them on little bits of paper. Uh, Even if you've done that, you're starting to make a record for your brain to think, I need to pay attention to what's happening with my
Right.
body. This is not a normal thing. That is not a normal thing. This is normal for me, but is also a lot of pain. Should this be happening? So with the endo specifically, it wasn't until like nearly 10 years into the journey that I was, or even more, I guess, that I was beginning to realize, oh, this is not normal. But I don't think it was until I was in the last few years of my marriage that it occurred to me that, oh, this, unless I get some help for this, unless I'm effectively helped, I will for the rest of my life have to choose between excruciating and unbearable physical pain or excruciating and unbearable mental pain. And yeah, there were no other options for me. And so it made me start to realize, oh, my life is never going to be normal. But honestly, even then, a lot of my feelings until COVID and the POTS diagnosis, a lot of my feelings were just, this is life.
Right.
And then with the POTS and the loss of the use of my body in so many ways, even just for walking normally, and the way that suddenly my legs would just stop working and I wouldn't be able to walk, I kept on thinking, I can get better. I can get better. I just need to exercise enough. I just need to get my body strong again. I just need to work harder, do better, and then it's going to be fine. But it never was.
Right.
And then it wasn't until I went on holiday again, because I'm so sorry, my little dog is barking at me because he wants attention.
Can't hear
Can you
it.
sit up on the couch? Okay, I will try and ignore him. He wants something, but I don't know what.
That's
so
why I
it
put mine
wasn't.
in the kennel, because she would be all over me right now.
Yes, this one is, just give me a second, I'll put him on my lap and that
Oh,
should
you're
stop the
totally
barking.
fine.
Come here, Dutch.
Can't even hear the barking, so we're good.
No, it's his very little woof, woof bark. He just, either he wants attention or he wants to go outside. But I think it's that he wants attention and warmth. So he'll be all right. I'm so sorry. He interrupts everything I do. But if I put him outside.
Hi, cutie.
But if I put him
But look,
outside,
this
he'll
is
make louder
human life.
barks.
So anybody listening or watching right now, this is life. This is what happens. Our dogs interrupt, our bodies interrupt. I mean, this is what we deal with. So
They
it's
really
wonderful.
do. Yes, so ignoring the dog. Yeah, it wasn't until POTS that I really started to get the idea, and until I went back and did the same kind of holiday I'd done before POTS, as in when I go on holiday, I want to walk the streets if I'm in a city. I want to look around. I want to see everything that I can see. And I want to find little places. Like, I love walking. My legs, you have no idea how strong my legs were, how much muscle I had on my legs. I was so happy. Just the walking was good for my brain. It was good for my emotions. I loved it. And I take photographs as a hobby. So I really loved it. And then I went back to Korea after POTS, and I was so curtailed with what I could do. I had to make a plan every day for what would happen if I suddenly couldn't walk anymore, if I suddenly needed, like, at that point, I didn't even understand that I was dangerously anemic, or any of those things. And I just knew that I had to eat often enough that I didn't get faint and lose the use of my legs. And again, with ADHD, it's hard to remember to have food in your bag every day. And I had to make an effort to do that. And luckily, Korea has so many food options everywhere you go. I speak the language, so I could easily stop in a cafe. Yeah, it's been one of the joys of my life, learning Korean. And I could do all those things. Yes, especially at first, it was very hard. It's direct opposite to English. It's one of the hardest languages you can learn from English, because the sentence structure is back to front, and also, like, the sounds are fairly different. They're in a different sound group. So
yeah, okay,
yeah, it was hard.
Little
but it's worth it though.
But
Yeah, but it makes the brain happy,
Yes.
And yeah, so I had to do so much more arranging. And then no matter how good I had been or how well I had arranged, the smallest of things
Yeah.
would throw my body out. And if it throws your body out just once, it's a couple of days to a couple of weeks
Yes.
that you can't do anything. And at that point, I was like, even at that point, I was still, I think, in denial, thinking,
Mm-hmm.
I just need to do better. I need to build my strength up again. And not realizing I was doing damage to myself by trying to build myself up with exercise instead of resting when I needed to rest. And even now, I still struggle because I do West Coast swing dance as my form of
Oh,
exercise.
wow.
I love it so much, and it's something you can both easily scale and easily ration out, because you can stop after a dance, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to stop because you want to keep dancing, but you can
Right,
stop
right.
after a dance and you can rest, and you can rest for one or two dances, however many dances you need to, and you can still keep dancing. And even now, when there's world famous dancers coming in or
Mm.
Australia famous dancers coming in and the dancing is so good, sometimes I will still overdo it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, and my brain is still like ever hopeful, maybe this time it'll be
Mm-hmm.
different. And it never is. But I feel like for me, and maybe for other people, there's never been a single realization. And again, maybe that's from the ADHD as well. My extreme forgetfulness is that I always have to keep realizing it and keep
Mm-hmm.
realizing it and come to that realization again and again. And each time, I guess each time it's less devastating, but it's more insidiously sorrowful, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah,
Yeah.
I loved walking. I loved that feeling my body capable. Like it gave me actual joy. I don't get joy from actual exercise, but from feeling
Mhm.
my body capable and strengthening with the type of walking I was doing so that I could see more places, take
Mhm.
more pictures. That was such a joy to me. And it's something that, well, I've lost that. It's not coming back.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me that was that continuing realization. That's been one of the hardest things about especially the POTS, because I'm used to pain.
Yeah.
Um, the type of pain I get even from the POTS is like broken bones level of
Yeah.
pain, and I can deal with it. It's not fun, but I'm used
Yeah.
to pain. And but that other thing, just not being able to rely on my own body, not being able to be sure that my legs are going to hold me up
Right.
on any given day when things are bad, that's been really hard.
Yeah, I think the fatigue and the uncertainty, especially for those of
Yeah.
us that are very independent and always have been, that's me. Um, and
Definitely, yeah.
who, yeah, and who, have seen those days when we were stronger and are now, which is a lot of us, and are now,
Of course.
dealing with this. I I think what I call it is, and I've heard this term before, is internal ableism. Um,
Yeah.
I do it to myself constantly. So I totally
Right.
understand what you're talking about. I think I can do more, and because I have the energy and I feel good.
Right.
And then an hour later, I'm wasted and I'm like, what
Yep.
is wrong with me? I just need to get stronger. And then I lay
Mhm.
down and I'm in this deep moment of like sorrow, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, this is my chronic illness and I need to learn how to pace myself all over again. Like I have to tell myself this all
Mhm.
the time when I have moments like that. So I totally
Yep.
understand where you're coming from. So you are a writer. And
Yes.
so the
Yeah.
question that we have is, what does a normal work day look like for you, especially with brain fog,
Mhm.
fatigue, that extreme
Yeah.
pain all in the mix? What does that look like for you?
So on a normal day, if we're talking normal fatigue and not too much pain,
Right?
um, I try to get up. I like my alarm goes off at 9 o'clock. That's not usually
Mhm.
when I get up.
Yeah.
It usually takes me for a normal day. It takes me an hour to get up,
Mhm.
and that involves my little dog running up to me to get some
Right.
pats. doing his little huff at me, stretching at me, and then just flopping down again because he knows I'm not getting up.
Right.
And so I do that. And that's the time I prefer to do my Bible reading and my praying if I'm awake enough. If I'm not awake enough, I try to wait till I'm sitting up. And that's changed as well. I used to do reading as in physical reading. These days, for my Bible reading to be able to concentrate, I have to listen to the audio Bible, which is like, I love that it's there. It's great that it's there, but I do miss like the tactile feel of my actual Bible. That would be nice to have back. But yeah, I will spend that time doing that. Or if I'm not awake enough, if there's too much fog, I'll just be listening to something from LawTube or just one of the YouTube channels that I follow. I'll just go to a couple of videos, listen to those. And then by 10 o'clock on a good day, by 10 o'clock, I'm up and about. And by that time, my alarm's gone off usually several times for me to take my morning pills.
Right.
And yes, so I take my morning pills and then it's cup of tea time, after which the window curtain just opposite me gets put up because then my nephews know that it is okay to come in and disturb me. So if the curtain's down, they're not allowed to come in. If it's up, they're free to come in. And they just come in and out throughout the day to get opinions on the weapons they've created or get me to have a sword fight with them or to tie something up or to cut something or to find out if I have any duct tape because they need more duct tape. And basically from 10 o'clock through to usually to 12 o'clock, that is like morning pottering. If I remember to, I'll be watering plants. I'll be tidying up the stuff that I left in a mess last night. And just doing little things and catching up with YouTube and trying to wake up basically. So it does take me a while to wake up and to get to a stage where I'm able to write. So I'm normally an afternoon writer.
Yeah.
So from 12 through till usually about 4 o'clock, I'm either trying to write, procrastinating writing, or actually writing. And when the brain fog is bad, it's honestly really hard to get a decent amount of writing done. But on a good day, I will put on, at the moment, it's Florence and the Machine, her Everybody Scream album. That's been going on a loop as I write because it really fits the vibes of the series I'm writing at the moment, which is like urban fantasy with a bit of Australian Gothica. And like the vibes have to match with what I'm writing. I mean, they don't have to, but I like it too.
It helps. Yes, it helps.
So for that period of time, I'm usually either writing or trying to write. I'm trying to also remember because it's something that I need to actually have a nap in that time. I was doing really well when I remembered to have a nap or wasn't pushing myself. And at the moment, I sort of need to start doing that again. And then when I remember during that time somewhere, I'll have breakfast. The breakfast is not usually breakfast time. It's usually more like 12 o'clock or after. So lunch is usually around 4 o'clock or something like that. And then I usually take a break and either play games with the nephews. At the moment it's Skyrim, or take the dog for a little bit of a play when he's in a playful mood, or I'll do my language studies then, things like that. I'm hoping to start doing my violin practice again, but that has been hard to get back into. So yeah, it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
And then I try to stop writing earlier in the day, but lately, because it's been so hard, I've been writing right up until midnight or sometimes later, just to try and get the output that feels necessary. And again, it's more of that internal struggle between I can't do this and my body needs to rest, but I really need to get this done. And things like that. So yeah, by the time 8 o'clock comes around, usually I try to have stopped writing for the day. And then after that, it's maybe reading if I can concentrate, or I like doing physical things while I'm listening to books at the moment. So at the moment, I have a Sean Tan puzzle that I'm going to be working on very soon. If anyone knows Sean Tan, he's an Australian writer and illustrator. He does amazing stuff. If you read or look at that technically they're picture books, but they're not really kids' books. So if you get
Yeah.
a chance, look at The Arrival or The Red Tree. Gorgeous works. They're just gorgeous. And I've got one of his puzzles and I'm very excited to get into it. So
Yay.
that's usually my evening. I'm either listening to YouTube while I am doing a puzzle or doing knitting. Knitting is really, really a happy place for me. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
sewing. Sometimes I'll go to Skyrim, but I try not to play too much Skyrim of a night unless it's the weekend, because again, once I start, it's really hard to stop,
Right.
because like it's not just quest based and story based. It is, you've reached this goal, what is the next thing, and oh, there's another thing, and oh, I can do another thing, and oh, I can earn money on this, and oh, I can spend my money on this. And yeah, it's it's
Yeah.
hard to stop, so I try to keep it for the weekends. And yeah, and if it's a really comfort night, I guess, my this is going to sound weird, but my comfort night in is usually a horror movie and a cup of tea and some ginger biscuits. And so basically I'm a granny, but I'm a granny who likes horror movies.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that as artists, there is something that is different about the brain that
Yeah.
lets us enjoy things like that as a comfort or a kind of a calming time for
Yeah.
us, which is weird, but it's a true thing. It's a true thing.
See, that's
I
that's one
love
of my
crime
special,
shows. Yeah.
right? See, that's one of my
Yes.
special things that I like to talk about sometimes when people will talk about horror movies with me, is that horror has a predetermined end and it makes
Yes.
sense of the terrifying things. And
Yes.
so in a lot of ways, a lot a lot of anxious people, a lot of people with PTSD, uh, we tend to enjoy horror movies. And I
Yes.
think that a huge part of it is genuinely because there are expected things in horror movies. They
Yes.
follow expected formulas. You have expected outcomes. And even if the outcome is technically a bad outcome, it's an expected bad outcome, you
Well,
know?
there's a resolution to
There's a
it.
resolution and there's a
Yes.
reason for the horrible thing. It makes sense of horrible
Yes.
things happening. Even if that
Yes.
horrible thing is that there are horrible monsters out there, it makes sense. And I feel
Yes.
like that calms and soothes the brain. And
I
so,
think it
yeah,
can, especially for PTSD and CPTSD people like us.
right?
So,
So
yes.
it makes sense to me anyway. But
Yes.
like that's a pretty normal day. The things that might be different about it are if it's an endo day, if the pains are particularly bad, or
Right.
if I'm like exhausted from that, I'll be in bed writing instead of sitting up
Yeah.
writing. Or I like to be able to stand, but my writing setup is very versatile. So
Mhm.
it consists of the bench, usually a little computer stand and the computer and a couple of keyboards.
Mhm.
So at any time, I could be sitting on the chair at the bench writing, I could be standing writing, or I could be in bed writing, or even if I'm
Right.
a little bit better than bed bound, but couch bound, then I can be on the couch writing as well. It's not
Right.
much of a couch, but it's good enough and it's got a nice
Yeah.
view. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it just, those are the variations usually to the day. And if I'm having a really good day in terms of physical strength, I really enjoy getting out to a cafe to write for a couple of hours, because those are usually my most productive days because the
I'm the same
ambience
way.
there. Yep, because there's a
Yeah.
babble of noise, but it's not noise directed at you or noise that you need to understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's not overwhelming usually.
Pardon
But
my
yeah,
puppy
that's pretty much normal
barking
day.
in the background.
I was going to say, are we having a visit from your puppy too?
Yeah, no, she is staying in her kennel. Cricket. No.
There.
I think my brother was going in and out of his room, and so she heard him and heard the door and started barking.
There is a
So
door.
everybody
I must be
pardon the
there.
little 3-pound dog who thinks she's a 20-pound dog. Stop. Okay, so what is something that people assume about a full-time artist like you that isn't true for you?
Ooh, I think there's a few things. There I think there's a kind of mindset that as an artist or an author, that you're either struggling financially and living in an attic, or you're really
Mhm.
well off. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
people think of there being any middle ground, but for the vast majority of writers, especially, the ones that, like me, are fortunate enough to make it their day job, most of us will will have just a fairly standard income, like a mid-list regular job type income,
Right.
that just comes with some added versatility. But I think also along with that, with expectations of either high salary or low salary, I don't think I think most people think that it's you get an advance and that's your payment for the year. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, with some people that can be. But for me, being an indie author, money is very up and down. I don't think people realize the extent to how much your income can fluctuate. So
Right.
if you're like me, who is not great at planning stuff out, um, then that can be a problem, and you have to learn how to deal with that, because the low months are
Right.
going to be really low sometimes. The high months are going to be crazy high sometimes. And you have to adjust your mindset a lot with that. So I do feel a lot of people have lots of misapprehensions and wrong ideas about the payment
Right.
and the lifestyle of a writer in general. And
Right.
a lot of the and also a lot of the time, mostly what I get asked is, um, how do you get all your ideas, or, where do all your ideas come from? And as though they're a finite resource. And that one has always puzzled me, because I will never in my lifetime be able to write all the ideas I have simmering
Yeah.
in my back brain presently at this moment. And I'm nearly 40, which means I'm probably about halfway through my life if I'm fortunate. And I have exponentially more ideas yet to come. Like, I've not had all the ideas that I will have. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of people think that creativity is a finite resource
Yeah.
that will one day run out. And I suppose some people might be like that. I don't like to say that nobody's like that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a never ending well of inspiration just welling up, because if you're living, you're learning. And if you're learning, you're growing.
Yes.
And if you're growing, there's always going to be a new idea to explore or a new way to look at life. And as a writer, writing is my primary way of processing.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore there is no end. There
Yeah.
there is no limit to how many ideas I can and will produce. So I feel like those two things are the things I'm most often asked about, or most often see ideas that are not quite right about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very interesting thing, is that I think some people do think that it's a finite resource and that you kind of
Yeah.
run out of ideas. But I think those of us, well, I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I think I am. I'm definitely neurodivergent. I think that our brains are constantly running. And so we're
Yeah.
constantly
Yeah.
thinking of the million things that we have to do and the things that we
Mhm.
see and the different stories running in our heads. I've always had stories running in our heads, and the music and all these things that
Right?
continue to run in our brains, which I have recently found out is not normal for people. Um,
Is it not? I thought
most,
I thought that was I thought at least that was not. Oh, sorry, puppy. I thought at least that was normal. Because, like, with the ADHD, I'm sure that you'll know this as well and have
uh,
experienced it as well. The underbrain is where a lot of the stuff is going on. Like, even if the upper
yes,
brain's got other stuff, all the really deep stuff and the cogs and everything
yes.
that is working things out, all the percolation happens in the underbrain, and then all of a sudden there's a fully formed idea in your head again. But I thought at least that other people at least had something
I think
always.
No, I think that people
Huh.
can think things, but like my husband does not always have a song in his head or thoughts running
Ooh,
around. When I go to bed at
that's
night,
very
it
quiet for
takes
him.
me forever to sleep because
Yep.
my brain is running 90 miles an hour. He turns around and falls asleep in 5 minutes
Right?
because there's
Who can do
nothing.
that?
Yes,
That's
I'm like so
insane.
jealous because there's
I'm
nothing
sort of
going on in his
jealous, but
head.
also just every now and then, it feels like it's nice company to have Michael Scott popping up in your head saying, Pam, Pam, Pam. I don't know why that's one that happens all the time. But if it's anything that rhymes with Pam, Michael Scott pops it in my head and is like, ham, 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 or whichever thing
And
that
see,
it is.
I do songs. I think in song
Yep.
lyrics. So somebody says something and I start singing a song in my head if I don't
Right?
sing it out loud, because that's just what happens.
My
Every
nephews
once
hate
in a
that.
while it'll be a friend's reference, like my eyes, which you being
Yes.
almost 40, I'm sure you know that reference. But um it's funny that that's not actually a normal thing. Now the circles I
Yeah.
run in, a lot of people are like that, and like my entire family's like that, and so it's
My dad isn't,
normal.
but I thought he was weird.
Yeah, see, so this is the thing, there is no normal,
Ah.
people, there is no normal. So if you are listening and you feel like, you're crazy, no, you're just your own version
No,
of normal,
you're
it's
just a
okay.
different normal. Yeah. No, that
Yes.
makes sense.
So last question on your creativity and
Mm.
stuff. Have you had to grieve the version of creativity that you thought you would have versus what it has turned out to be? Or has it just kind of flowed in a different way for you and not really been like that?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's one I've never thought about. I've thought of something that's tangentially connected, which I will tangentially connect after I've answered the question. I don't feel that I mourn a type of writing or the writer I thought I would be. I feel like my writing ability and style and everything that goes with it has grown with me as I've grown as a person. And like I said earlier, I'm really fortunate to be able to write as a day job. And that basically was the dream. That was my dream. I wanted to do
Awesome.
that. Yeah. And more it was once you get there, like, oh, what is the dream now? And you have to sort of sit back and say, well, I want to keep writing better, or I want to try this next, or I want
Right.
to explore that next. And so as I've been growing and writing, my writing has been changing a bit, of course. As I've
Mhm.
grown, I feel like it's gotten better and deeper. I hope that it's gotten more enjoyable and I hope that it's gotten technically better. I think it has. No, I know it has. I mean, a line I still remember that I wrote was that someone spun around, arrested, and a troop of policemen poured into the glade. And that's just not great for a start, but also putting arrested and policemen in the same sense, in the same in the same
Yeah.
vicinity without a proper connection. Anyway, I have gotten better. But
Good.
one thing I have noticed, which is the tangential thing, is that sometimes I will reread my writing from a long time ago, um, when I was younger. And sometimes it's not that I miss the person I was, but I look at that and think, I was really innocent back
Mhm.
then. And there was a kind of joy and innocence in my writing that I see and think, oh, it was really unfair that that was
Yeah.
taken away from me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't still have joy in writing, because I do. I have what
Yeah.
I would think of as a deeper joy. It's just not the uncomplicated and effervescent joy
Mhm.
that it was when I was much younger.
Mhm.
And I don't think it can be, and I don't think it's right that it should be. But also
Yeah.
sometimes I read some of those things and just I miss the uncomplicated joy of
Mhm.
writing at that time. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it. I love what I do now. I love that I write with more layers and with more depth and more thematically resonant
Mhm.
uh, layers. I love that and I want to keep doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I do miss that uncomplicated joy of writing.
I think there's a piece of us with chronic illness as we grow and as we learn how to deal with this and as we grieve over and over again pieces that we lose.
Yeah.
I think there's always a piece of us that misses the uncomplicated, joyful
Yeah.
times. The
Yes.
pieces, the times in our life when things were a little easier. Most of the
Yes.
time, it's when we were much younger.
When
um,
you didn't have to plan
and
so many things or
yeah,
grieve so many things.
you didn't have to plan around your body. You didn't have to
Yeah.
think, through the brain fog. You didn't have to, deal with the
Yes.
many doctor's appointments. You just got to
Yes.
be and
Yeah.
write or paint or whatever your creativity is,
Yeah.
create software, whatever it is. I think there's always a piece of us that misses that part of our lives. And I think that's something, I mean, as we get older anyway, as human beings, we grow and we mature and things change. Um, and things do get more complicated because we're older,
Yeah.
because we're wiser, because we've lived pieces of life that are hard. But with chronic
Mm.
illness, it's hard every day. And
Yes.
sometimes that makes that grief a little more.
Yeah.
But also sometimes it makes that time a little more sweet, where we think,
Yes.
oh, she was so naive, but man, she was so, great
Her mind
or whatever.
soared.
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate though, because with writing being the way it is, I have a record of that version of me. I
Yeah.
have like a little window into what I was when I wrote that. And that's pretty precious, I think. So
That's
with we even
awesome.
with everything else, even with the way things have changed and how much harder it is to write these days, just yeah, being able to see my progress, being able to see those
Hmm.
little parts of myself as I proceeded through my life, that's pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah. So, because of chronic illness, we're going to kind of switch into faith a little bit
Mm.
here. We touched a little bit on it. A lot of us don't get to go to church regularly, and I'm assuming that
Yeah.
that's the case for you.
Yeah.
Um, does that bring up, what kind of feelings does that bring up for you when you
Mhm.
miss church regularly? And when do you feel that the most?
So, the biggest feeling that comes up is shame, and
Mhm.
there's a very specific reason for that. It's that I grew
Mhm.
up in very, very fundamentalist Baptist circles and then went on from the
Every
very
time the
fundamentalist
door was
Baptist
open.
circles. Yes, like not just church twice on a Sunday, the
Uh-huh.
Wednesday night prayer meeting, the youth on Friday night, whatever's happening on
Yes.
Tuesday night. Yeah, you're always there for it. And like if you can do that and if you want to do that, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to
Yes.
have those things. Take advantage of all you can. But in the circles I was living in and in the way that I internalized everything
Mhm.
and in what I'm coming to think of as some very OCD tendencies. The shame
Mhm.
that is in my brain is very, very real and very, very long lasting
Mhm.
because you don't miss a church service. You go, you always
Mhm.
go. And if you don't go, people look at you weird.
Yeah,
And
you better have a high fever and be on your deathbed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And instead of it just being, I'm sitting in church and my body's vibrating so much from all the noise and all the singing, which I love to do, that I am
Mhm.
about to faint. And or my legs just stop working in the middle of
Yeah.
church and I cannot move myself in or out. I'm on the floor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but usually it's the thing in your brain is like the little shame monster in your brain, the
Mhm.
gremlins in your brain are like, no, you're a wicked person. You are not a good Christian and you don't love God.
Right.
And that honestly has been the hardest thing to come to terms with because, yeah, that voice is really, really strong. And with a lot of the
Mhm.
mental struggles I've had along with the ADHD, with the PTSD and everything that's come along with it, I was already struggling mentally. And then to
Yeah.
have that on top of it, and then just to start realizing I'm not performing my faith, I'm living
Yeah.
my faith. So if I'm living my faith, what matters is that I am in fellowship with God first and
Yes.
foremost. That's the most important thing, is having my quiet time with God, having my prayer
Yes.
time, and also having fellowship with other believers, but that's not going to look the same as it did
Right.
when I had a fully healthy body. And for me, I've been I've been so blessed in
Hmm.
that I've ended up in a group of riders who are not just riders, but are Christians.
That's
And
awesome.
we have people from a few different branches of faith. There's some of us who grew up Baptist, some who grew up Presby, some who grew up Catholic, some who grew up
Mhm.
Mormon. It's a mix. And our faith doesn't, our faith isn't the same and it doesn't look the same, but in a lot
Right.
of things, there is a sameness and there is a fellowship to be had.
Right.
And I really love that, because the normal things that you would get from church in being with other believers, in discussing things, in iron sharpening iron, as they say, I get that online now.
That's
And that's
awesome.
been really important for me, because at the same time that my body has made it almost impossible to get to church every Sunday, there's been so much upheaval in the church worldwide in terms of just horrible misogyny and really bad stuff coming out all
Hmm.
the time, and just getting so tired of seeing women and children abused and misused, and men claiming God being the worst of people. And I
Right.
know that the Apostle Paul said he was the worst of sinners, but he said he was the worst of sinners, but he was also actively trying to change. And
Yes.
that that is not what I'm seeing in the church at the moment. And it gives me a lot of pain. And if I didn't have the online relationships with other
Hmm.
Christians that I have, I would be very much poorer. So I'm not saying that it's okay to not go to church and not get any fellowship, but I am saying church is
Right.
not the only place to get fellowship. And for
That's true.
me, the thing I miss most is being able to sing together.
Yeah.
And like I can listen to a sermon, I can read a book, I can read the word of God for myself, and I can study for
Yeah.
myself, but I can't worship God together by
Yeah.
myself. I can worship God by myself, but not together with other believers. And that
Right.
is very precious and is something I feel like has been taken away. And that's been really hard, especially
That is a hard
since,
point.
yeah. And like, you can listen to online sermons. I can tune into my church's
Hmm.
service from bed. I can. And that's a great good that's come out of COVID. And I
Yes.
love that. But it's not the same thing as worshiping in person. And a lot of churches these days tend not to have an afternoon service.
Hmm.
It's usually just morning if there's one service. So even where I live, none of the churches that I could go to have a service that is late enough for me to be able to get out of bed and get there, like
Right.
get dressed, get up right, and get there for most days, like most
Yeah.
Sundays. And unfortunately, despite the number of specifically women, which I think is probably one of the problems in my community, who are long COVID and or POTS or another chronic illness, um, church leadership has been very unwilling to provide another service that we could potentially go to that would be a little bit later in the afternoon and or have less intensity in terms of the worship service, so that it wouldn't be
Right.
overwhelming.
Right.
So that's left a lot of us in my specific community without a place to go. And it's hard not to feel as though it wouldn't be this way if it were men who were ill.
Mm.
Um, but since it's mostly women, a lot of it does feel like we just are expected to suffer,
Yeah.
because it is women's place to suffer. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's been a hard thing to realize about the church community, specifically where I am. And I'm sure they don't feel that way. I'm sure they think they're being loving um, in having the online services. But yeah, it's been a sorrow for me. I'll
Yeah.
put it that way. I know that's a very old fashioned term, but it has been a sorrow to my heart that
Now
that there's nothing for me and for others like me.
I think it's a good way to put that, sorrow. Because I think that it's something that I've struggled with. We've started
Yeah,
watching services online as I've been dealing with some back issues that hopefully at least that piece will be resolved sooner than later. I don't know that it'll ever go completely away, but to have less
Less
severe
pain.
pain like I'm dealing with
Yeah.
right now would be nice.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I'm
It
used to
weighs on
pain,
you,
just not like
but it
this.
weighs on you. Yeah.
It does. It does. And so online service has been a very amazing thing that's come out of
Yes.
COVID. I think one of our churches in the area that I was a founding member of, we started online services before COVID hit. And so I love saying that because it was something that I
That's
saw a need
great.
for. Well, I
Yeah.
saw a need for it with some homebound people in our church
Yeah.
who were desperate to go to church but couldn't. And I was
They
like, we
just didn't
had my
have it
home
there.
video camera and, we figured it out and we made it work. But COVID has really exponentially changed that for a lot of
Yes.
us. And that's been
There's
a
been good stuff
wonderful
that's come out
thing.
of COVID. Yeah.
Yes. But it is hard when you don't get to sit and sing with your fellow
Yeah.
Christians in the congregation and to sit and, hear the joint amen or the joint,
Yeah.
yes or whatever it is that's
Or even
happening
take
around you.
communion. Like
Yes.
if you're low church, communion isn't the same thing it would be for like high church or Catholic, or specifically Catholic type
Yeah,
churches. But it's the table of the Lord.
it
It's a
is.
remembrance, and it's a holy place of the body and blood of Christ. And while I may not believe that it turns into actual body and blood, it's a holy place. We're told that
It is.
where we are there, we're meeting with God. He's there with us.
Yes.
And yeah, not being able to do that too, just with a lot of churches, as you'll probably know, because I guess it will be the same in your church,
Hmm.
you have the time for quiet reflection
Right.
and for repentance and for asking for
Right.
forgiveness that comes with that. And I know I can always repent of things at home.
Yeah.
I should do it a lot more than I do, but there is a very
All of us.
specific kind, right? But there's a very specific kind of holiness when you're fellowshipping with
Yes.
your brothers and sisters in your church home,
Yes.
and you're coming together corporately to confess your sins and to ask for forgiveness, and then coming directly into the presence of God to receive the sign
Yes.
of the forgiveness you've already been given.
Well,
And
and I
yeah,
think that, there's a scripture that says where two or more are gathered, God is with
yeah,
them, right?
God
Is
is
there
there in the
with them.
midst. Yeah,
And that doesn't mean that God isn't with us in our singular moments. It simply means that there, like you said, there is a specific type of holiness that happens. There's a
yes,
specific type of fellowship with God that's
yeah,
different that happens when it's corporate worship like that. And
yes,
we're among other believers. It fuels our spirit. It fuels
yeah.
our souls. It
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 gives joy.
allows us. It does. I get joy out of that type of fellowship, and I
Yeah,
hate it when I can't go. We just moved back to Texas and with my family right now till we close on our house. And I was hoping Sunday, this past Sunday, to be able to go to our church that we're still members of here.
yep,
And there was no way I was going to be able to get up because I've been in so
yeah,
much pain at night.
yep,
And it was a moment of like, this is really sad. And at the same time, okay, I'll watch church online. I
mm,
understand this is what my life,
yep,
it it does both.
yeah,
So thank you for sharing that about how you feel, because I think we have a lot, you and I have a lot of similarities in both how we were raised and how we see
yeah.
things right now, which is very cool.
We've come
Um
a long way, I think.
yes, most definitely. Um so what feels more honest about your life now than it did before having to really deal with chronic illness?
Oh, I like that question too. I think specifically, um, it's that not just facing and naming the things that are different and living them differently and allowing my life to be different. But for me, a really big part of this, and I don't know if it counts as honesty or not, a big part of this journey has been trying to learn to be kind to myself.
Mhm.
And a big part. like part of that is the chronic illness, and a big part of it is also having nephews now. And technically, I've had one of them for at least, it's 8 years now, and one of them for 6 or maybe 7 years now. I'm a bit fuzzy on the ages, and there's one newborn one now. But the way I speak to them is with kindness and with patience. And the way I speak to myself is generally not.
Yes.
It's very much not. And I started noticing a couple of years back that when one of the boys did something wrong, or if they were ashamed of themselves, they would just start saying, "I'm such an idiot. I'm really stupid." And I was like, oh no, that's what I've been saying aloud around them. And they think that's okay to say about themselves.
Right.
And so I started telling them, no, you're not an idiot. You don't need to talk about yourself like that. It's just that you misjudged this, or just you did something wrong and you can do it better next time. And I'm guessing that with kids, you can possibly guess what happened next, which was that I would slip and say something like that, and they will look up at me and go, "You are not stupid, Auntie Wendy. You're not allowed to say that."
Right.
And this tiny little kid just telling you that, and you realizing all of a sudden, just over and over again, but with varying degrees of intensity, how regularly cruel you are to yourself.
Yes.
Just that has been something that has been really hard to change, because, well, some of it's because of where I grew up, some of it's because of the 11 years I spent married, but none of it excuses keeping on going that way, because it's bad for me, but it's also bad for the people around me. And it's not bad only because it influences younger kids to do that, but it also makes people's lives around you so much more difficult, because a lot of the time they then feel a burden to reassure you and to make sure that you're okay. And at the same time, it's like they're trying to protect you from a hater, but the hater is you. And it's unfair. Like, it's unfair to them, it's unfair to me. And it's just cruelness. There's no need to talk to yourself like that. And it's not healthy, it's not right. And you yourself, I think, do not have the right to talk to a person God made, and in whose body the image of God is. You don't have the right to talk to someone who's in the image of God like that, whether it's yourself or
Preach
someone
that,
else.
girl. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But it takes so long to realize, and it takes so long to implement, and I still fail and fall in that so many times. So, like, modern language, I guess they call it self-love, but I mean, I guess it is self-love, but to me it feels like it's more of an integration with your life than just as simple as self-love.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, and it's a way of seeing souls, I think.
I think self-love has changed. Like, the true definition is loving who you are, who God made you to be. But I think we have gotten, as a culture, so into some of what I call the hippy dippy stuff, where
heavy individualism.
We've taken self-love and created this whole thing of,
justification for anything.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the way God created it. I think what you said is so good and so accurate. And that's one of the quotes I want to pull from this episode.
Oh, yay.
Is, that God doesn't want us to see ourselves that way. He says, why are you talking to a piece of my creation like this? I created you to be who you are. Stop talking to yourself like this. And that's, oh my goodness, seriously, you just preached to me today, because I've had a counselor look at me and say, you are really mean to yourself. Do you know that?
Right.
And I'm like, yes, I know, but I can't,
But, like, how do you stop it? What's your first steps?
I know.
And it's an instinct, and it's a reflex. after you've been doing it
Especially
for
if
long
you've been
enough.
through trauma. Especially if you've
Yes,
been through trauma.
especially.
We
There's neural
immediately
pathways
go
and they stay.
to, yes, we immediately go to that space in our head where we're like, I'm stupid, I'm not enough, I did the wrong thing. My
Yeah.
husband has looked at me and said, stop apologizing for things. You didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
know, but I can't stop. You know,
It's
so
easier to recognize it in someone else than to recognize and do something about it in
so
yourself,
much. But it's
especially if you
really
love that other
cool.
person.
Yes. Well, what's really cool is that children are a mirror for us. And,
Yes.
you know, children will repeat the things that we say, good or bad. And
The
to be
behavior.
able to, yes, oh my goodness, to be able to see that and to recognize that
Yep.
partly is because of how old you are and you've had those years and you've gained the wisdom, but
Yes, I
partly
think so.
that's a really neat thing that you went, oh my goodness, I don't want him talking to himself like that. So I
No.
need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Well, for someone who feels guilty for resting or choosing something easier or whatever, what would you say to them right now?
I would say to them that you're a soul, you deserve rest. And you not only deserve rest, it's a requirement of
Hmm.
you. God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested as
Hmm.
a picture to us that rest is not just important but holy.
Amen.
It is like our body is called a temple, and rest is holy. And if rest is holy and your body is a temple, it's something that you need to do. It's something
Mhm.
that is required, but it's also something that is good and joyful for you.
Yes.
And it's also something that's needed, especially if you're chronically ill, especially if
Mhm.
you're having trouble just functioning on a normal level. You don't have to, especially as women, we're often told, and it's often suggested to us, that we have to pour ourselves out for
Mhm.
the family until there's nothing left.
Yes.
But and a lot of the times the ways that people will try and make us feel better about feeling guilty even feed into that. They're like, you need to stay healthy for your family. No, no, my sister, you need to stay healthy because you deserve to be healthy, and because
Yes.
your body is a temple, and because you are a soul made in the image of God.
Yes.
And that is something that is yours. A friend of mine was into ominous positivity, and she did some beautiful paintings. And one of them is a bear, and it's all very dark and ominous in dark blues. And it says, "Take your rest. After all, it belongs to you."
Hmm.
And I love that because it does belong to you. Rest
Yes.
is holy. It's something that
Mhm.
God gave us. It's something that He wants us to do. So,
Yes.
if on the day of rest, if on Sunday, that is the day that is so packed with church things, if you rest, surely that is more holy and
Hmm.
more right in the sight of God than all the activities you could do. You can be a Mary instead of a Martha. You can be
Hmm.
sitting at the feet of Jesus instead of serving.
Yes.
And I think that goes for not just, obviously, not just Sunday, and not just shame around church going or not church going. You need rest. Your body needs rest. You need it for your mental health, you need it for your bodily health, but you
Mhm.
need it because you deserve to have rest.
Yes.
It's something that God's given you, and it's something that's holy. So don't don't throw what's holy to the dogs. Don't let shame get at it. It's
Boy,
yours
we
to.
are preaching on the podcast today. I'm telling you, I'm loving this. All right. So let me ask you a few lighter questions, just kind of some
Yes.
fun questions before we wrap up here. What is something small that makes your day feel a little more like yours, a little more joyful?
It can be anything from tea, because I really love my tea.
Hmm.
So I my life runs on cups of tea and sometimes cups of coffee, usually cold brew. Um, so that is, honestly, I don't feel quite human if I don't have access to a
Right.
good strong cup of tea or a nice bit of cold brew.
Right.
And that really does make me feel more like me. But honestly, this might sound weird and materialistic, but this little place I've built around me since I've been living on my own in my own space. As I mentioned earlier, I live in a Bedford bus. It's fit out as a home on the inside. It also has some little house guests, as in spiders and mice, which I deal with in different ways.
I mean,
The
let's be
dog does
honest,
not
you
deal
live in
with them at all.
Australia, so
Yes. But what I've done, I've realized about after I started making a living wage with my books, I suddenly realized when I was at a Christian art, like the artist festival is a Christian one. It's the Pilgrim Artist Festival that happens in the Huon Valley. Um, like not all the artists are Christians, but it's a Christian festival, and usually there's a thematic element that people submit to. So I was at that one year just looking at all the amazing art, and I was looking at this piece behind me. And this was just after I escaped from my marriage. And I was feeling very raw, but also very hopeful. And this piece is called Strength for Today, Bright Hope for Tomorrow, which spoke to me immediately, but also just the look of it. I loved it so much. And it occurred to me in that moment, I'm allowed to buy art.
yes.
I can own this art. This is a thing that I can take and hold and own. And I asked what price it was, and it was actually something I could afford.
Yeah.
And ever since then, my little brain has been like, we're allowed to buy art. We're a person who buys art. We are a patron of the arts. And so I've actually got more than one painting by this lady. This is Fiona Vidal. She does amazing stuff. This is one of her pieces that's a little bit out of what she normally does. She normally does Tasmanian landscapes. They're all just gorgeous. I have several of her works now, but I've just been picking up pieces here and there. I've been picking up another local artist, Ruth Bosveld's stuff. She does miniatures on piano keys, like
Wow.
gorgeous miniatures, tiny piano keys, beautiful bucolic Tasmanian scenes. And I just realized, oh, I can do that. I can buy a textile art that somebody in this location made, and I can touch that every day. I can bury my face in that weird little woolly thing, and it's mine. I can own art. I can touch art. And that sort of opened up a piece of my brain. And I've been collecting just weird little things ever since. And yeah, so whenever I see something that's original art that I can afford that I love, I
Brings you
don't
joy.
always get it, but if it brings me joy, if it fits in this space, which I'm beginning to run out of space,
Yeah.
quite honestly, if it fits in the space and if it fits with everything else here, there's a good chance that I'm going to put my joy money toward that.
Right. Love
And
that.
that it just makes me happy. I've got things from America, I've got things from Korea, I've got things from around Australia, just bits and pieces here and there that I pick up that I love. I've even got, like, I'm wearing today something that when I did a signing, one of in America, it's the only signing I've done. And one of my readers bought this gorgeous little heart pendant and gave it to me. And another one bought a lucky, what are those things? Clovers with 4 leaves on it, and had pressed it. So
Oh,
just things like that, looking around and being able to physically touch beautiful things that give me joy. And to add to that, my entire wardrobe that is far too full of clothing, but it's art I can wear. It's even
yes.
this, like this top is a joy to me because it's soft and it's warm and it's green and it's pretty.
And it's adorable. So,
I love it so much. So having things that make me feel like myself specifically are just being in this little bower that I've created around myself, like a bowerbird, and having my wearable, comfortable art, having my touchable views into other people's minds that is artwork, that makes me really happy. That makes me feel like I've got myself a home and a place. And
yeah.
honestly, also just my nephews or my sister popping in and sitting down and talking, that is, yeah, I don't think you could buy a better life than that.
That's
It's,
awesome.
yeah, it's a
That's
wonderful life for
awesome.
me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love seeing a good piece of art, and I might have to buy some of those piano keys. My husband is
Yes.
the piano player and loves can of stuff. So that might be a present coming up. Um, I think that's just amazing. Art and, pretty things around me just fuel my spirit as well. I think that's
It makes a
something that
difference.
creatives, yeah, I think that's something that especially creatives um, need, to be
Yeah.
able to feel peaceful and to feel the joy and to look up and see a piece that, really just made you smile when you saw it and you're looking at it going, oh man, or like the piece behind you that makes me feel something when I look at it.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. Well, for those that want to connect with you, buy your books, find out more about you, please tell us all the places they can find you and get to know you more.
Okay, so if you just want mostly bookish stuff, my Facebook page that's just WR Gingell, that's the best place to find me because I share snippets from my books there. I burble about nonsense things. I share a lot of photographs, and I even have an attached Facebook more private group for long-term readers or long-time readers that's denizens of the weird worlds of W.R. Gingell, and there's a lot of book discussion in there when it's sometimes quiet, it's sometimes bubbly,
Yeah.
but Facebook is a good place to find me. If you're interested in what I do visually, as in you want to see a little bit of the bus house, or you want to see day-to-day stuff, reels of me doing my normal stuff, or if you just want to see the photographs I take, I always love sharing my photography. It's one of the ways I like to share my view of the world. And it's also a good way for me to practice and get better at it. Instagram is a good place for that. I also make book announcements there. So you're not likely to miss book announcements if you're not on Facebook and you're on Insta. And that is also just WR Gingell. I'm very, very easy to find on all of these places. I'm very boring, bog standard. I just went with the initials and the last name. I'm also on Threads and I'm also on Blue Sky. On those two, I tend to be just sort of mildly unhinged, mildly to moderately unhinged. So there is just mostly nonsense burbled over there, but I do also make book announcements. So you get to see a little bit of that as well. And I also have a newsletter. You can, it's called the Right Newsletter, which, it's a play on the WR, that goes out about twice a month, and you can find sign-up links for that on my Facebook and in my Instagram link, like profile link. But basically for ebooks, you can buy them anywhere that you would buy ebooks. I only have 2 series that are exclusive to Amazon that are in their Kindle Unlimited. So it's my latest 2 series, I believe. They're all urban fantasy, mostly Aussie main characters. One of them's set in Seoul, South Korea, because I spent a lot of time there. And one of them's, the current one is set in Melbourne. But yeah, basically anywhere else ebooks are sold, they're going to be there. You can get the paperbacks at the same places. And Kobo now has a reading subscription as well. So all of my books that aren't specific to Amazon, you can read them for free if you've got a subscription with Kobo anyway. And I also have a lot of audiobooks now, urban fantasy ones. So yeah, Tantor has been buying up the rights to those. So they're just out there, and I have a great narrator. So yeah, that's
Well, and I
basically
will
all the
say
places you
too,
can find me.
if you want to read some great short stories from our lovely author W.R. Gingell, you can head over to her website as well, and she's got some
That's right.
interesting, very short stories done kind of blog
I do.
style. And I enjoyed reading a couple of those this week as we got
Oh,
ready for
I'm
this
glad.
interview. So you're a very talented
I
writer. I
keep
look forward
forgetting
to
I
reading
still
your
have
books.
those.
I know. Blogs are great because sometimes we have things we forget we had.
Yes, yes, that has been meaning to be revamped for many years, but I don't have the skill or the time to learn the skill. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to do something about that, and soon I'll start selling books from my own platform there.
Yeah.
But that is probably TBA sometime this year or next year if I get
Yes.
it.
At some point down the road, she will do that.
But they are there, yes. And there's like a tab that says short things or shorts that you
Yes.
can find them on. So yeah, they're not too
Yes.
hard to find.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. I know this has been a slightly longer episode than I would normally do with with a guest interview, but I got to tell you, it's been a fantastic conversation. I may break this up into 2 episodes. We'll see. Simply because it was longer, but it's been so great to get to know you, to hear your story, to get to hear how you come about your own stories that you write, and get to chat today.
It's been wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. And also just the questions you asked, I very rarely get asked questions I haven't been asked before. So it's been really nice to have some new questions, and also to have a lot of faith-based questions.
Yes.
It's really to be able to talk about that part of myself as well as the chronic illness part, because it can be easy for one side to get buried by the other.
Of
And
course.
being able to have it all together at once has been really lovely. So thank you very much. I've loved
Well,
being here.
that's why we talk about life, faith, and chronic illness here, because it is not just about one piece of our story. It is about our whole entire lives. So I'm super
Yeah.
glad we got to talk today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I'm really glad you're here. Stay connected, subscribe on YouTube, and join the Unseen Sisterhood. Keep going. I'm right here with you.